Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is November the 22nd, 2019. Strong hand, Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin in motion. Oh yeah, we got a guy who's in motion here today. Long-term thinking, apex predator, be a unique beast. Oh, he's a unique beast. Remember, this is your home for insider Bitcoin information. And yeah, Zach Bowl is going to bring you all the information. He's got a strong hand. He knows that Bitcoin's unconfiscatable. Hello, my elite friends. Hello, my elite Zach Bowl. Welcome back on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while, almost a year, I guess we were saying, but it's good to be back. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you have been ripping it up on Twitter all this time. He is linked to below, by the way, guys. It may be about 10 months or so since he's been on the show, but I have actually used his tweets many a time, so you guys should be familiar with him at this point. But if not, he is linked to below. Follow him. Always doing great stuff over in Twitter land, and we're going to get into a specific tweet right now. Why don't we start off with a current event here before we really do a deep dive? And let's read a tweet of yours. I love this one. I'm really glad the IRS is investigating compliance issues for Bitcoin ATMs, because that's definitely a critical regulatory priority for an agency with limited manpower that barely understands forks. Ouch. Okay, so there's a lot there. We're going to talk about the IRS, but let's talk about why are they hitting on these Bitcoin ATMs all over the world, and will they really be able to stop some Bitcoin ATM in Africa?
Yeah. So the tweet was based on a couple articles I saw floating around. One of them from Bloomberg, I think, and then it was picked up by Cointelegraph with some comments from one of the chief criminal investigation officers or something. I don't remember his name, at the IRS. And they're looking at tax compliance issues for Bitcoin ATMs and kiosks. And apparently this is, they're collaborating with multiple different branches of law enforcement. I don't know all the details on this. I just saw headlines and scanned the article a little bit. But obviously there's every couple of months, there's articles about how Bitcoin ATMs are growing in the US and around the world. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 Bitcoin ATMs around the world live now. It just seems like a kind of a bizarre, very niche area for the IRS to focus on, in my opinion. Maybe there is like rampant money laundering or something going on with Bitcoin ATM use. But it just struck me as a very odd thing for the IRS to focus on, given that there is so much for them to, so many other things that they could be working on, understanding and issuing guidance on, and even enforcing elsewhere in the Bitcoin and crypto space. Like, for example, understanding how to tax forks and airdropped coins and all of that sort of stuff, which, as Coin Center has written a little bit on recently, their recent guidance, which is like the only guidance they've given since 2014 or something, was pretty bad in terms of how they understood or seemed to understand forks and airdrops and how they want them to be taxed and all of that. So it's very bizarre. But like, sure, go after Bitcoin ATMs, I guess. More power to you.
Yeah, their talk on the forks, the airdrops, the crypto dividends, it didn't seem like they know what the heck they're talking about at all. And then this announcement that they're going after the Bitcoin ATM, it's a niche thing, definitely. So, I mean, in your opinion, do they know what they're talking about there? Or do a lot? I mean, they've tried to make it out in some of their press releases. Like, we've got experts over here now. But some of this stuff that's coming out of there, it seems like they're totally clueless, that they're really behind on this.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, obviously, and there's signals that it's kind of a mixed bag. Like on some things, some areas of tax enforcement, they know their stuff pretty well probably, and they're trying to go after high profile, maybe what you might call honeypots of crypto users, like the John Doe subpoena for Coinbase a few years ago and that sort of thing. And even they subpoenaed Apple for all user downloads of any sort of crypto related app or whatnot. So they're not totally taking just stabs in the dark, but they are still to some extent taking stabs in the dark, like a bunch of letters that were sent around from the IRS that popped up on Twitter and other social platforms were just sort of very vague letters from the IRS saying, we want you to review your tax returns because maybe you didn't file them correctly. We don't know. So they don't know what's who hasn't paid their taxes and who has. There's just I'm always an advocate. Like, it's not worth the risk for me. I always pay taxes, but at the same time, like, if you didn't pay your taxes, I'm hesitant to say this, but like the IRS might just not have the manpower to enforce like outstanding tax liabilities for everyone who didn't file and everyone who didn't even file correctly, let alone people who don't know if they filed correctly or not. It's just still a pretty big mess. So I don't know if Bitcoin ATMs, it should be like at the top of the IRS's priority list, but whatever. Who knows what they're doing?
I think they're trying to show, we're everywhere, we're big, and you should self-report. You should be scared. You said the word honeypots, and I've actually used that before. That term when describing this situation. Coinbase, all the people who have bought at Coinbase and sold at Coinbase and done it multiple times. That's a huge honeypot. The people at the IRS don't have to be too knowledgeable in order to audit those people. Okay, that's not a very skillful thing. And Coinbase is going to hand them over everything eventually. So if you're a person who calls yourself a trader and is giving your social security to these social security numbers to these exchanges, Coinbase, whoever, you should be concerned about that. You should pay your taxes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
luckily, like the past couple of years, as I've tried to file taxes, it's gotten substantially easier to do so, thanks to there's a whole bunch like token tax or bear tax or like a whole bunch of different crypto tax programs that allow you just to connect APIs from whatever exchange you use, and they pay a small fee and they calculate your tax returns for you. It's super easy. So we all like to be super libertarian and anarchist, but I also I'm not going to be a hero and not pay my taxes and go to jail or whatever. So just pay your taxes. It's easy enough. But like you said, all the people who are trading on Coinbase and Kraken and Poloniex and all these exchanges, it's almost as big of a problem, maybe even a bigger problem for the exchanges themselves rather than the customers, because the exchanges don't have any more guidance than we do on how to handle forks and distributing forks and helping their users pay taxes on the forks they distributed and whatnot. We all remember the Bitcoin Coinbase was a huge fiasco, and they listed a couple other Bitcoin forks too. And the IRS has no clue how forks work, and these exchanges and taxpayers like us don't know how to file properly for it. So it's still a big mess, but definitely if you're trading on exchanges, there's tools to help you file taxes, and you shouldn't try to go to jail if you can avoid it. So anyway,
again, if you've gone into back their realm, the IRS knows fiat, okay, and that's the huge honeypot they have there. They don't have to do very much research to find out who sold their Bitcoin for fiat and that's I'm sure there is only a limited amount of people they have there. And so if they make themselves seem huge, they'll get a lot of people reporting all sorts of stuff, and then it won't take much talent to go after the people who forgot to report their fiat earnings. It's pretty obvious. If you signed up for Coinbase, you signed up to pay your taxes. That's something to remember there in terms of selling for fiat. All right, good. So we covered that. Pound that like button, everyone. So now let's talk about which shall we talk about here? A big story out in in the realm of Twitter, at least in the social media part of cryptocurrency. And people ask me about this stock to flow guy all the time, 100 trillion. And people, it's dogma what he says. And it's exciting. His charts make big predictions, and it's all technical, and it's great. It's beautiful, fancy sets and graphics, all the stuff that makes everybody drool. Okay, he's got it going on. Big predictions. People are like, Adam, you got to have him on your show. I'm like, well, it's all out there, and I mean, he's got a Twitter account, and he's not. I don't know if he'd be on the show, but you had a comment about him on Twitter, and you said maybe this. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like me, I'm not blowing this guy out. I'm not putting him on some pedestal and saying it's correct. I've always said Bitcoin's going to be worth more in the future after future halvings. Okay, understand what halvings are, people. If you don't understand what halvings are, but you worship this dude, you're a little behind here. So what exactly did you say, and what do you think about the dude and everything?
Yeah. So I while you were talking, I just tried to find the tweet so I could remember exactly what I was saying. And I was actually tweeting sort of more at Saifedean than the 100 trillion USD guy. But Saifedean was arguing that stock to flow is meaningless for every other coin besides Bitcoin. He says the real supply of a shitcoin on any day is decided by whatever the people behind them put in their algorithms on that day, not their algorithms. Only Bitcoin supply is controlled by its algorithm because nobody controls it. Which, okay, I get what he's saying. But I just said your metric, I used some colorful language, but I said your metric isn't worthwhile, basically, if you cherry pick one and how to apply it. This is just embarrassing. And I got a lot of negative feedback on that interpretation. Stock to flow is a useful measure for valuing gold and whatnot, and it's been applied to a couple other scarce assets, and people want to apply it to Bitcoin now too to sort of predict that. I don't remember exact numbers, but something not too hyperbolic in the range of like $100,000 per coin by next year or by 2021 or something. And sure, maybe that will happen. And they have a lot of, like you said, this guy, 100 trillion USD, has a lot of very cool data visualizations showing how Bitcoin's price has tracked very closely with its stock to flow ratio and all of that. So maybe it'll happen, but my two qualms with it are people like trust it almost religiously as if it's like a prophecy that has no choice but to come true, and they sort of cherry pick its application like Saifedean did here. Whereas, so if you run the point of my original tweet was internally, this was when I was working at Masari, and we ran stock to flow ratios for a bunch of other digital assets, and Bitcoin stock to flow ratio is like you want sort of a high stock to flow ratio or a low stock to flow ratio, if I'm saying that correctly. And a lot of other digital assets had much higher ratios than Bitcoin did, which, theoretically would say that saw my tweet and sort of
Zach. We got a little cut off there. Let's you were talking about the high stock to flow or back up some there. Back up some.
Sorry about that. So we ran numbers on some other like altcoins and their stock to flow ratios, and they were higher than Bitcoin's, which I mean, I guess is sort of what you want to see, like a high stock to flow ratios, if I'm saying that correctly, high or low. But Saifedean's point here is it only works for Bitcoin. It doesn't work for any other coin. And that just seems a little bit maybe intellectually lazy, in my opinion. Like, why? There's no real good answer for that. And I would definitely, at the very least, encourage people not to sort of use it as such a strong price indicator of like 100,000 per coin next year, like some people seem to be doing. So it's a cool, he has a lot of cool data visualizations, this 100 trillion USD guy. He's a smart guy. But maybe like, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but maybe a little bit, like just rain a little bit and maybe cool some of the like rabid excitement around stock to flow. So yeah, that's all.
Oh, that's good. We can't put people on pedestals and worship them as kings around here, because you're going to be let down in the long run. Now the guy isn't trying to do anything bad here. It just seems like he's got a cult following. It's become almost the cult of whatever his name, 100 trillion. The cult of stock to flow. And hey, man, I hope it happens. I hope for the best. But yeah, I'm not gonna worship the dude or anything like that. So good. Now you brought up that you were at Messari before, and you did analysis of all sorts of things, even altcoins at times. You had a report on altcoins, or with at least using the names of altcoins in a statistical report. And there's some people, and this is a question about Bitcoin maximalism gone too far. You're a dude who loves Bitcoin. I mean, you were a Bitcoiner. You worked for a company.
Yeah.
You had some reports that mentioned some altcoins, and people were offended. They were calling you an S-coiner. I don't want to say that word, but they were calling you all sorts of things. Has it gone too far now in terms of the social media aspect of being a Bitcoin maximalist? When people are attacking you, of all people, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, we could spend like 3 hours talking about this. I have a lot of thoughts. I think a couple things really quick. I think like the markets and Twitter and everything is just like kind of quiet, like really quiet lately. And I don't know if you know, the Twitter handle is just Skew, SKEW, and they're a very cool data visualization sort of research company, focus on mostly like derivatives in crypto, like that data, but they do a lot of other data. And they posted a chart showing how like Bitcoin mentions on Twitter are just like at all-time lows. Like it's scary, and people are just like kind of bored and a little stir crazy maybe. And like you said, maybe it has gone a little too far, this sort of like crusade against S coins, altcoins, coins we don't like, coins that aren't Bitcoin. And like, no one's dumb. Like, we all know there's scams, all sorts of scams all over the place in this space. But like, I consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist. Like, I think Bitcoin is pretty much all I care about in the space. Like, there are a couple other coins and teams doing things that interest me. Like, I think Grin is interesting. I think most privacy coins are sort of interesting. I think Blockstack is interesting. We'll see what happens with them. I think there's just like things that interest me. Would I like buy the ICO? Probably not, but I think it's interesting. But even for saying that, some people on Twitter will report you, block you, call for your head, all of that sort of stuff. And it's just a little bit outrageous. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, through my work with Messari is sort of a crypto agnostic company. They work with a lot of different teams, a lot of different tokens. They want to sort of be like a Bloomberg of crypto, where any data you want on any coin or protocol or token or whatever can be found on their site. And by working with them, doing a lot of very important work, good work, trying to clean up the data in the industry and the quality of like news and content reporting in the industry and that sort of stuff. People just got mad. But I tend to like, as a rule, I tend to think people who get mad on Twitter aren't really worth paying attention to, because they probably don't have anything else to do with their lives. Like, that you probably have to have kind of a pretty sad life if you just spend your day getting mad at random people on Twitter all day long. So I don't tend to give it too much mind, but it does happen a lot more frequently now, and hopefully it improves. But I think the last thing I'll say is, I think as a result of all of this, we've seen a lot of migration towards like social conversation wise, migration towards Telegram and Discord and Signal, where it's a little more private, a little more controlled, and less out in the open like Twitter and Mastodon, which we used for a few months back then, are just because people can be so toxic, for lack of a better word, and it's just over the top.
Well, pound that like button, people. Zach is telling it like it is. I gotta say, Twitter for me, I use it as a resource. I filter out all the nonsense screaming. You can learn a lot by reading certain people's feeds every single day. I want you, again, what's that skew one again? How do you spell that?
Yeah, it's just their Twitter handle is SKEW, just skew. It's very high. I think they're a team of like 2 or 3 people. I don't remember exactly, but very high quality.
Yeah, your point about people getting stir crazy, like see, I'm not saying Bitcoin is boring now or whatever, but there's there seem to be a lot of negative FUD stories out there, so that kind of sets the tone. There hasn't been a pump for a while or whatever, so people get and people need action, or just bored people need action. People who are easily bored need action, and they get a little testy and they start yelling at each other. For me, it's always learning. So it's never boring. I don't get into the fights, as I said, and I just use it as a learning resource. But Twitter overall, in the way beyond Bitcoin, way beyond cryptocurrency, most people use it as a way to get out passive aggressive anger and whatnot. So it's come to our space also. But I'm Zach is not he's not an altcoiner. Although you brought up the Mimblewimble stuff. Do you think Mimblewimble will be incorporated into Bitcoin at any point?
Oh, good question. I used to have opinions on this. I haven't thought about it in like a while, so I'm hesitant to answer. I think at a very high level, a generic answer I'll give is obviously we can expect base layer privacy for Bitcoin to improve substantially through like maybe Mimblewimble integration, but especially things like Schnorr and Taproot and all of that, and also like services like Wasabi and Samurai and other things. But with specific regard to Mimblewimble, I'm not sure. I haven't read up or on recent conversation about that or thought about it in a little while, so I'm not sure. But there was a lot of what you might call FUD around Mimblewimble based on this one article posted a week ago, and there was some FUD, I guess, on Monero too. But it'll be interesting to how that the 2 articles were for Monero and Mimblewimble on how people claim to sort of break their security privacy model and whatnot. But privacy, like everyone wants enhanced privacy, and that's sort of why these protocols focus on it sort of came to be, and we'll see if they can survive for another 5 or 10 or more years. But we can expect more privacy for Bitcoin, and I hope the privacy coins do important work and serve their purpose. Because they only exist because people want to speculate on their price and use them for privacy. So whatever happens.
I heard that the Mimblewimble revelation actually has been out there for some time. It's just someone put words and kind of made a scary article about it. And I'll say that in terms of privacy and Bitcoin becoming more private, that there have been people that have said that if it's built into the base layer, that it would scare off the corporate types and scare off the financialization types. So that probably won't happen. People be able to opt into the privacy aspect of it. What do you think of that? Well, could that scare away institutions if it became like truly private at the base layer?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few people who have written about this, but I think Nick Carter may have written one on this, sort of like the coming tension between like institutions who want to use Bitcoin and sort of like rogue independent users who want to use Bitcoin for like other reasons. I think he's right. That's inevitable. And I don't know if if base layer privacy improvements will create that tension maybe to the degree people are expecting, just because like Bitcoin base layer will never have very good privacy. It can't have very good privacy because the supply of Bitcoin is so important to its value prop. And the more private you make it, the less able users are to audit the supply of Bitcoin. That's why you've seen inflation bugs with Zcash and Monero and maybe even Grin. I'm hesitant to say that because I'm not exactly sure. But the point is, privacy coins have inflation bugs because people have a difficult time auditing their supply because the base layer is so private. And we don't want that with Bitcoin. So I don't think the privacy will ever become that big of a deal for Bitcoin's base layer. But other, like elsewhere in this stack, like with wallets like Wasabi or with second layer protocols like Lightning, those are where you'll find the privacy. So institutions, if they want, maybe can stay working with the base layer, and other users who want privacy can go to other parts of the stack to get it. And that's sort of how the stack is designed anyway. So I think it'll work out well.
Interesting you bring up Lightning. What's your take on its progress? And you're now at Blockstream too, so we should. I don't know what they're doing over there with Lightning, or if you're involved with anything like that. So expand.
Yeah. So I'm obviously, maybe not obviously, but I've always been a pretty big fan of Lightning. Pretty bullish on it. It's still early, obviously, but like network usage continues to grow. I think with regard to Blockstream specifically, obviously Blockstream maintains the C Lightning instance or implementation, I guess is the proper term. I don't work with the Lightning team here, at least now. I don't think I will much in the future, but possibly. But all these implementations of Lightning are obviously important for the protocol in all of its different implementations to grow and mature and whatnot. Very bullish on it and excited to continually see cool apps being built for it. Just a couple weeks ago, someone built a completely anonymous like chat room app where you can pay a couple thousand sats and have 24-hour anonymous chat room hosted on their Lightning app. The guys at Satoshi Games, have you had them on your show, by the way? Or you know the Satoshi Games guys?
I've heard of them, and it'd be great to have them. I knew about that chat thing, by the way. That was a great. What was the?
Yeah.
I included that in another video. I guess I should find it again. But no, Satoshi Games. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they're building like a Fortnite type game with Lightning integrations, and you can win sats by playing the game and whatnot. They're based in Latin America. I don't remember exactly where, but I've super like a year and a half ago or so, when I was still running a podcast that sort of got archived, but I interviewed them. They're just like super friendly, sharp game developers building a cool Fortnite-like game for Lightning or on Lightning, and it's live now, or some people can sign up for the beta to play it and test it. And yeah, like definitely interview them on here. They're a great team, and just one of many great teams working to build with Lightning right now. So
yeah, I think I talked about this Satoshi Games before. You pay to play, basically. You can win Lightning, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Yep, that's pretty much how it works.
And that's good. I mean, I love that people are experimenting with this stuff. Who knows if that chat room thing is going to get big? Who knows but at least people are playing around with it. We don't know what the killer feature of Litecoin, the killer app of Lightning is going to be. So keep on experimenting, people. That's what this space is definitely all about. Okay. So any other Lightning thoughts before we move on to Blockstream?
I don't think so. I think Lightning is Lightning.
So what are you doing at Blockstream? We had Neil on here telling us what he does. He's marketing over there and everything. And Blockstream is so legendary in this space because people come up with all these conspiracies about it. Here you go. Here's a real guy. He works for them. He's been on the show before. He's not part of a New World Order or anything like that, or whatever you guys think's going on. Tell us about what you're doing over there and what and them. Tell us about Blockstream.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. It's like I don't think it was related, but I posted on Twitter that I got a new job and I'm working with Blockstream now. And then some Ethereum fans like started rehashing these old conspiracies, like you mentioned, about how Bitcoin is co-opted by Blockstream and all of this stuff. I don't know. It's nonsense. But Blockstream specifically, it's honestly a dream job. Some people maybe don't want to work in Bitcoin full time, but I think they're sort of rare. Like most people want to work in Bitcoin full time, and there's a handful of companies that just sort of are like where you would want to work if you had your pick. And Blockstream, for me at least, is 100% one of those companies. So I'm very lucky, and I'm having a lot of fun. I actually work pretty closely with Neil. Like right now, I'm just doing a lot of documentation, rewriting, that sort of stuff. But touching on content with a few different teams, and excited to see what else comes down the pipeline. But it's exciting. Like you said, one of the best companies in the space, and I'm just, super lucky. So I'm having a lot of fun already, and I plan to continue having a lot more fun in the future.
This dude is in motion. He had a podcast, and then he ends up working for these big Bitcoin companies, working in the space. How does one end up working in the space? Any advice on that to the people listening?
I was gonna post a Twitter thread about this, but I mean, I'll not post a Twitter and just share it on your show. Like I'm a little like I've been in Bitcoin for a few years, several years, I guess, but I'm not like an OG or anything like that. I'm just like a regular guy, and I tweet a lot, but I'm not nothing special. All of that to say, there are so many opportunities in the space, and I know this because I've found them. Like I found when I was looking for a new job, do something a little bit more fun and more related specifically only to Bitcoin. I found a dozen different jobs at least that would have been a lot of fun with great companies in the space. Like for example, Bitwise and Casa and CoinDesk. And a couple funds and exchanges and whatnot. So to your question, to get involved, you honestly just have to DM people or email them or something and just reach out and ask, because no one's gonna like give you a job and come to you. You have to just go out and get it. And in my, like, it takes a little bit of work, but there are I'm not overhyping it. There are so many jobs in Bitcoin, and a lot more in just like the crypto space generally. But if you want a job, you probably won't find your ideal first job in the crypto space on your first try, or maybe even your second try. But there are a lot of jobs. So don't feel discouraged. Just like shoot some emails, send some DMs, and I can almost guarantee you something will work out because there are so many opportunities.
All right, dudes, that is some insider information. That's why we got the best freaking guest in the space here. You don't hear stuff like that. Just DM the people. He is giving you proactive tips right there. Oh my God, I love that. I love what you just said. No, hardly anyone talks about, how to get a job in the space. Yeah, people don't come find you. You go DM. There's nothing shameful. I get DMs all the time asking me all sorts of things. Do the same for the people that work at these companies. Again, any specific targets you have out there besides the ones you just mentioned for people you think might need jobs, for companies that are looking for jobs? Do you have any specifics? Yeah. Any other names out there? Any other?
I can maybe think of a list like after the show. I can't emphasize enough. Like I've just some people like a CEO of an exchange. I'm not going to name, but we had chatted a little bit on Twitter publicly, and then I emailed her or maybe messaged her on Telegram and just said, hey, would love to chat sometime if there's a role at your exchange that makes sense. This is my resume for your reference. I'd love to maybe work together if there's something that makes sense. And we chatted for a while, had some great interviews and that's happened like multiple times for me at least. And I don't have like a spectacular resume. I've just had some regular jobs and done some research and that sort of thing. But don't be like, if you're shy, no one's going to give you a job. Don't be shy. Just send your resume to some people, start conversations, talk to people who you might want to work for. Something down the road will work. You just have to go for it a little bit. Be hungry.
Be in motion, people, in motion. Pound that like button. One thing that I mentioned actually on my audio only podcast, I rarely do those. Most of these videos just get turned into audio, but I had people, it was linked to a few shows back. I theorized, and I'm pretty sure, I'd love your take on this. There are many Asian-based companies out there in the space. Okay?
Yeah.
They need English-speaking marketing type of people. I mean, I suggested to people just, hey, go to some of these Asian-based companies and just send say, hey, I'm a marketing guy. I can do social media for you. There's a lack of, they have a hard time communicating with the Western side, and I think they would love to have and you could work out your own deals with them. I mean, do you think that's possible type of thing out there, opportunities?
Yeah, I think when you're looking for something, like in my personal experience, I don't have a problem saying, Masari, when I was looking to get involved in Bitcoin, I only wanted to do Bitcoin. And so working with Messari at first, I didn't think it would be like my ideal job or the ideal company I wanted to work for, because I knew they worked with a lot of other token projects and whatnot. And I wasn't sure I would enjoy it too much. But little did I know, I made an insane amount of great friends and connections, learned a lot, was exposed to a lot, and it turned out great. And I expect sort of a even better, similar experience with my new job now. Point being, if you're looking for a job and you don't find exactly what you're looking for, it's okay to take maybe a less ideal job, because you never know, in crypto specifically, because it's a very small space and you never know who you're going to meet or what opportunities you're going to come across after you just take something and start working in the space and meeting people and doing it full time. Can't overstate the importance of that. Just take a job. Everyone's hiring engineers, so if you're an engineer, you can take whatever job you want pretty much. And if you're not an engineer, just take something, start working for a crypto company, make connections, and use it as sort of a launching pad to something else. Or stay at your first job in crypto for 5-10 years. Either way, there's so many opportunities. If you want to work in crypto, I guarantee you can find a job.
Wow, this is very positive stuff. This is I love this type of information. Okay, we're gonna move more to the stuff that everybody's familiar with, the news. Let's talk about the bigger story, China. What are your thoughts on the recent China here?
Yeah, China's always in the news for Bitcoin. You can count on it, and the huge price spike that one day it spiked like 40% or something. Everyone thought it was because Xi Jinping said blockchain is great now and we want to build on it, I don't know, his statement. I don't know how much that had to do with the price directly, but China's, at least from a Western point of view, it seems that the Chinese government and Chinese companies are taking this stuff maybe a little bit more seriously than American companies and regulators are, and maybe that's just a product of them having a little bit more regulatory flexibility in terms of U.S. securities regulators are very, very strict. And we see companies leaving the U.S. all the time or excluding U.S. customers all the time. Even Binance had to create a whole separate exchange just to cater to U.S. clients. It's crazy. And so Asian markets are a little bit more flexible in that regard. But yeah, China's always in the news, always crazy. I think the one thing I would say is Crypto Bobby, who does YouTube crypto videos and stuff, tweeted the other day. He was like, every time he lives in New York, also here with me, and he said anytime he sees news about China, he just always assumes the translation is wrong, and he doesn't take an opinion on it until someone clarifies the news, which I think is a pretty good way to read China news and Asian news in general about Bitcoin and crypto, because there are so many translation errors. Westerners don't have great access to information to explain what's going on in China and Asian markets right now. So if you assume anything you hear is wrong and wait for it to be clarified, you'll probably be okay, instead of, I don't know, believing some FUD or getting bad information or whatnot. It's tricky.
Yeah, that's a good technique there. I like that technique. Hey, by the way, you said you're not an OG. When did you get into Bitcoin? When did you get into the space?
Yeah. So spring or so, 2014.
Oh,
I was in college.
Dude, that for most people, you're like a grizzled veteran. People, there's so many guys that are proud that they got in 2017. But no, continue. Sorry.
I guess so. That's true. I mean, so I found out about Bitcoin from my roommate in college, who was a comp sci student and had been into Bitcoin a couple or several years before he showed me about it. I studied economics, among other things, and he thought it would be interesting to me. And obviously it turns out he was right. But I remember 2014, 2015, even 2016, guys would be talking about Bitcoin. Even one of the co-founders of Messari has been in Bitcoin since 2010. And I bought my first Bitcoin for about $250, I think, or something like that. And I remember even then just thinking, oh man, I'm so late. They bought Bitcoin for $11 or $3 or something like that. And I mean, now here we are at 8,000 or something. But it's crazy. So I I don't know. There's so much to learn, and I feel I still feel new to Bitcoin. I don't know. It's just been Bitcoin warps your perception of time. So it feels like I've been in this space for like 2 years maybe. It's all flown by very fast.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
like the Bitcoin Cash hard fork was like 2 years ago or something, 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
And it feels like 10 years ago
Yeah.
or even just like a month ago. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's my story.
Yeah, we value our time in halvings around here, and you've already lived through a halving, so man, you are a veteran. And yeah, the Bcash thing was only 2 years and 2 months ago. It was August 1st of 2017, or 3 months, or whatever. But it was August 1st, so it seems like 10 years ago, but it was so recent. So we've been through a lot. A lot of people weren't through that. I will ask you this though, since you were around in 2014 and 15 and 16. You were around leading up to the previous halving. I got to say that there are similarities between this time period leading up to this halving coming up in 2020 and leading up to the 2016 halving. We reached the bottom, and then we slowly started coming up, and we had some troughs again, and then finally there was the road to the halving. The halving hype started, and it seems like we reached it, and this time around it seems like we've reached the bottom. We've had some ups and we've had some downs, but we haven't had the halving hype yet. Do you see those similarities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I'm not a big trader, and I obviously you do too. Like, encourage people not to focus on the price too much or anything like that.
Of course.
But I think over the holidays coming towards the end of 2019 here, we should, like the halvings in May, we should see like that hype sort of start a little bit. I'm hesitant to even talk about this because I tend to think like it's not necessarily the price climb doesn't necessarily start because of the halving, but there obviously is some supply shock relationship there to some extent maybe. But yeah, so I tend to think we should see sort of some price climbing towards the holiday, the beginning of the new year, and into the spring, and then at the halving summer, and then after that, who knows? But I mean,
yes,
there's an equal possibility that it won't happen, and I mean, who knows? We've only had a couple halvings, and maybe this one will be wildly different. Who knows?
Well, I'm pretty confident in the 210,000 block theory. You can go back 210,000 blocks, and the price in terms of US dollar is less. You can pick any date, and it's never, you go back 210,000 blocks, the price is always less. So in terms of we had the all-time high in December of 2017. So 210,000 blocks from then is going to be November of 2021. So we shall see. We shall see if November of 2021, you subtract 210,000 blocks, if it's more than. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it, and I know the halving hype will start again. Probably again, just like you said, around the holidays, beginning of the year, the mainstream media will wake up to this thing called the halving again, and all these people who are in the space who have no idea what it is will start talking about it again, and it creates its own little hype, and people start buying it, and then once it happens, the price goes down, and then afterwards it goes up. So we'll see. We'll see if it's all cyclical again. But you've lived through it before.
Yeah, strong hands until then, though, and we'll see.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say strong hand. You've lived through it before, so you got a strong hand. All right. Well, let's talk about something you haven't lived through yet. That is Facebook Libra. Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think they'll get approved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly don't know. Like month to month, sometimes my opinions on that change. Sometimes I think they can pull it off. Sometimes I think the regulatory scrutiny and pressure will force them just to sort of abandon it. And then again, maybe like them abandoning it will actually help it launch because it will be even less like centrally managed, and someone else will pick it up. I don't know. I don't know. If I was like gun to the head, had to bet one way or the other, I would probably bet on it not launching more than like launching. But I'm honestly not sure. I don't know. And I think anyone who knows for sure it won't launch or it will launch is just making things up. I have no idea.
Well, since we were talking about price a little bit, let's say they did announce, if all of a sudden the government, the lovely people over there like AOC and everyone, just they forget about it. They're like, okay, we're cool with it now. And it's obvious that it's going to happen. What would you think happens to the Bitcoin price?
I think it would be like pretty bullish because I think if Libra launches, it's not too big of a stretch of the imagination to imagine Facebook eventually implementing like buy and sell options or features for Bitcoin and maybe a couple other altcoins, similar to something like what Cash App supports now, where you can buy Bitcoin with dollars or with Libra tokens or something else. And then like there we have billions of people now with a brand new way to buy Bitcoin that have probably never had the ability to before, or at least definitely not that easily. That would be pretty bullish, I would say.
All right, pound that like button. Let me ask you, I don't know, did you hear about Google, how they're going to help a bank out? What was that story?
Yeah. I didn't read that news too carefully, but apparently Google is interested in launching some sort of type of bank or building like a very close banking relationship with someone. I don't remember exactly what was going on there, but Forbes took it, some article, and said this is why Bitcoin's price is crashing or something to that effect, which is classic. Everyone always searches for a narrative to support why the price does whatever it does. But it
was one of those kill Bitcoin articles.
Yeah.
And again,
I remember seeing that.
but I bring it up because I do believe they're working with this bank and they're going to help the bank be more efficient. I think it's the first step. I think they want to have their own coin one day. I want to go back to Libra for a second. I have no problem with a company like Facebook printing their own token, printing their own money, whatever you want to call it. I think companies should be able to do it just like nation states and compete, don't complain. If Facebook gets let in, do you think Google will end up with one? Do you think Amazon will end up with one? All those big companies?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you too. Like, I think it's probably that situation is probably inevitable. I don't know exactly the timeline for when we can expect something like that to happen, but yeah, definitely if Facebook gets the regulatory okay, we can see we'll probably see a lot of other large tech companies building similar protocols to Libra.
Well, we just talked about China. If China lets, and already this is happening from what I can kind of tell, I'm not there, but they're letting their tech companies have their own coin. So I mean, there might become pressure. There might be pressure on the Western world if the Chinese companies really are successful with that stuff, just to let our companies have this, or the West companies have the same privilege, I guess, to do that. So we shall see. Now we've reached the end here. I don't think I have any more questions. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that wasn't brought up here? Any events coming up? Anything you want to talk about?
No events or news. Just I mean, a lot of what we've talked about has been people speculating on why the price does what it does, whether it's because of the stock to flow ratio or Google's banking relationships or anything in between, China FUD. And I guess my parting comment would be just sort of take all of that with several grains of salt. Because people love to spin up narratives, all of them with varying degrees of credibility. And at the end of the day, people only have very limited ability to predict why the price will do what it does and has done what it does and whatnot. So don't pay attention to the noise because odds are most of it is noise.
Yes, avoid the crypto noise. I really appreciate all your tips about jobs. You can follow that was really original stuff. Zach's is linked to below. And I mean, you can send him a DM if you got questions about jobs or whatever. I'm sure you can give some tips. Anyway, Zach, thank you very much for being on the show. Again, he's linked to below. Pound that like button, everybody. Bang that bell button. We do this Week in Bitcoin every Friday. I think we're going to be able to get back to the regular format again once I'm back in the United States. I'm in Adelaide, Australia, by the way, everyone, if you don't know. But I'm going back to Baltimore. Next week, it will be live from Baltimore, hopefully. Okay, everybody. New show here every day besides This Week in Bitcoin every Friday show. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, pound that like button, bang that bell button, disruptmeister.com. Follow me on Twitter at TechBalt, TechBalt. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone. See ya.
See ya.